This is the Five Lights Podcast.
Yes, it is, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Five Lights Podcast. Whew, we're nearly at 10 now. I am your host, Daniel Herrick, and we are back. Less than 1 week after the flag has come down in Shanghai, we are back to break down the next race in Bahrain. Yes, the F1 circus is preparing to perform once more at Sakhir. So, we have a lot to get to. We've got to break down all the news that's happened in the past week, and there's a fair bit to break down. We've got to wish a certain someone a happy birthday. So, without any further ado, let's get going. Yes, and that was our intro music, once again provided by bensound.com, your one-stop shop for all your multimedia music needs. That's bensound.com. I don't do this on my own, though. There's only one more person to introduce, of course. He is an F1 nut. He is my friend and my brother. Sounding a little bit different today, but still sounding great. But I would never slow down to let him pass. He's my main man. Ben, how you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Sounding a bit echoey, but still sounding intelligent. And that's what we want on a news day and a breakdown of a race day. So good work there, Ben.
Thank you very much. Yeah, apologies for the sound. I'm having to do it through my laptop microphone rather than my headset. We've had a slight glitch with my headset, unfortunately.
Don't worry. Do not worry. It'll be rectified soon. Old birthday present coming your way.
Thank you very much.
Don't you worry. So, should we get into the news then, Ben? Because there's a fair bit to break down, some heavy subjects and some fairly light subjects. So, do you want to take it away with the first one, and that is the old Royal Rumble that's kicking off in Mercedes?
Yeah, forget Mayweather versus Pacquiao. We've got Lewis Hamilton versus Nico Rosberg. After the Chinese Grand Prix, there was obviously the heated drivers' press conference, where Rosberg had, let's say, a bit of a tantrum and said that Lewis had compromised Rosberg's race because he slowed him down and backed him into Vettel, as we discussed in the last podcast. It's kind of been going back and forth during the week. Niki Lauda, apologies, there's going to be an expletive, but he said that all drivers are egocentric bastards and that they're just selfish, one-track mind, and really everyone has come out in favour of Lewis Hamilton rather than Rosberg on this.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think Niki Lauda's right, and he speaks from experience. He was, if anyone's seen the film Rush, he was an egocentric person. I'm not going to repeat the word. We've heard it once. We don't need to hear it again. But yeah, and as we said when we broke down the race, though, Ben, didn't we? We said you had to be selfish if you're going to be a Formula One driver, and that not only means you want to go out and win, but you have to have an ego about you, because if you speak to any champion in any sport, you have to be confident, and confidence brings an ego, which brings all the baggage that comes along with that. So I think you're right in saying that everybody seems to be coming out on Hamilton's side, and Rosberg he's just losing the championship before it's even started.
Yeah, he's trying everything, I think, and mainly mentally, to try and get back at Hamilton and try and knock him off the top. But he needs to actually try something on the track. He can't rely on Hamilton just being slow. But to be honest, surely someone who's in second place wants first place to be slow so he can overtake him.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's weird, but Rosberg did admit that maybe he has given Hamilton a psychological advantage based on his comments in China. But he said given the chance, he'd say it all again. It's just very strange that he would go down that route, and it's not helping him. He just needs to be better on the racetrack, in qualifying and in the race. And Hamilton's just come back this year much stronger than he was last year, and just too much for Rosberg, it seems, out of the gate this season. Yeah,
It's good for the sport in two ways, though, isn't it? Because obviously it's entertaining for us to watch. But even my fiancée Donna, who is not the biggest F1 fan, she'll sit and watch some races sometimes, and it's great to have her along when she watches races. Against her will, yes. But even she's been sharing this video of Hamilton and Rosberg's press conference and saying how hilarious it is and how entertaining it is to see. Rosberg doesn't come out of it well, though. Rosberg has not come out of this well. And I want to pick up on a point that was mentioned in another podcast, the On the Limit podcast, and they were talking about whether obviously we're going to get onto Hamilton's contract in a minute, but whether Rosberg will stay, whether Mercedes will want to keep him on board. Obviously, he's a German driver, driving for a German team. They'll want that in their team, but do they want the baggage of what Rosberg is currently doing? They're going to want a winner and a fighter in the team, someone similar to Lewis Hamilton, and who they were pegging to replace him. Now, I'm going to put this out there now, Benj. I'm not saying that they're going to replace Rosberg by any means, but if they are going to replace Rosberg, do you think they'll perhaps be keeping an eye on Red Bull and hoping they'll pull out to try and swoop in and get Ricciardo?
It's very good theory.
I know, right?
When there was a debate about if Hamilton would re-sign his contract during the winter, Toto Wolff came out with a wish list of drivers that he would have if Hamilton didn't want to stay at Mercedes, and that was Alonso followed by Bottas. And of course, Mercedes have their reserve driver Pascal Wehrlein as well. So I don't know how that would work in terms of kind of contract and money and things like that. But definitely, I would snap Ricciardo up like that. You know, he's a fantastic driver. There'd be plenty to choose from, but of course Toto Wolff has that affiliation with Williams, so it could be Massa as well. I don't know, probably not likely Massa because of his age, but yeah, there's plenty to choose from. But I think Rosberg will stay. He's already signed a multi-year deal, which takes him through till somewhere, probably about 2018, something like that.
Someone in the future.
Someone in the near future. I think I can't remember. I'm going to say 3 years, but I think he'll stay. I'm just thinking that he'll hope Hamilton doesn't stay for too long.
Yeah, but you've got, looking at it from Mercedes' point of view, as a business and a sports team, they're going to want two winners on there, and it just, I mean, there's no sort of facts or any sort of research gone into the theory. I was just literally listening to it as I was driving along and thinking, well, if Red Bull pull out, Ricciardo will get a drive somewhere. He's one of the best drivers on the grid, one of the top 5, in my opinion, on the grid. So where better for him to land than Mercedes? And what a partnership that would be to see Hamilton alongside Ricciardo.
Yes, that would be really good. It'd be kind of Hamilton Button-esque, that kind of those McLaren days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is probably my favourite driver pairing. It would be, provided Mercedes is still on top and very good, which I would assume they will be for many years to come. Then it would be ideal for Ricciardo, and I think he's top of most people's lists. And I think I agree with you. He's probably in the top 5 or 6 drivers in Formula 1 at the moment. Unfortunately, he hasn't got the car this year to kind of carry on from what he did last year. But he's top quality, he's fast, he's great character, and he's just always smiling. His face must hurt.
Donna calls him, is that the smiley man?
The smiley man.
Well, we'll go on from some fictional contract talk and some Fantasia contract talk to actual contract talk with Lewis Hamilton. Has he signed it yet, Ben? Come on.
Still at 99.6% at the moment.
Come on.
Unfortunately, apparently it's, to quote Toto Wolff, ping pong between the lawyers at the moment. Everything major was settled a few months ago. It's just a tiny, finite details at the moment. But there was a rumour again this weekend that the reason why it's taking so long is Hamilton wants number 1 status, and Hamilton and Toto Wolff have come out and said it's absolute nonsense. That's not how Mercedes works. That's not how Lewis works. And Lewis even said, I've never ever claimed or wanted number 1 status. I just want to show how good I am on track and see where I am then, and that'll be my number 1 status. I'm not like Sebastian Vettel or Alonso, where I will claim to have number 1 status, which I thought was quite an interesting comment to make, and also slightly true as well, I would say. They also made the comment as well that he's not happy for his competitors to have their hands tied behind their back and beat him that way. He did say that he knows many other drivers on the grid would be more than happy with that, but he wasn't happy with that, and he wants to beat him fair and square.
He's on a bit of a self-righteous trip at the minute, isn't he? How that
yeah.
sort of calling people out, saying Hamilton, Alonso's got this written in, and Vettel's got this written in, and I'm the. I mean, he is arguably the best driver on the grid. Who's the best? No one knows. You'd have to put them all in similar cars on a similar day. It's a completely subjective question. Who's the best driver? But Hamilton at the minute is looking like the best driver on the grid. I don't like this whole idea of you signing you are the number one driver in the team. I think, as Lewis has said, you have to earn that status throughout the season. But let's just hope it gets signed. I mean, you said what? Spain, the Thursday of Spain, did you say, or to get it signed?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it's sooner than that.
So that'll be 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks today, in fact, or 3 weeks. I can't remember the gap. But speaking of, number one status. With the whole Lewis versus Rosberg debacle, there has been discussions in Mercedes that maybe some mild team orders will have to start occurring as a result of, one, them two squabbling, and two, Ferrari being quite close now. So it won't be to the extent of, the old Ferrari days where it was, clear Michael Schumacher was given the right to win, like we saw with I think it was it Melbourne, where Barrichello was told to move out of the way on the last lap to give Schumacher the win?
No, I don't think it was Melbourne. I think it was one of the Asian races. I can't remember which one it was, but completely
but it's
farcical.
it's not going to be to that extreme. It's just going to be in case of Ferrari, if they threaten Mercedes 1-2 finish, then they might create some team orders. So that would be very, very interesting to see, and I don't know how that would go down with the driver. Obviously, whoever it doesn't favour, there's going to be another tantrum after the race, or maybe even during the race.
Well, we've seen more and more drivers now the engineers can say whatever they like over the radio, but more and more drivers are now just going, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And just doing their own thing, which is, really what we want to see. We want to see them race. Let them race. I can understand some team orders like we saw last week where they're on different strategies and it doesn't pay either of them to sit and squabble with each other. But when it gets to the point of, like you said, Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher, where they're just literally telling them to, or the infamous one a few years ago with Paul Massa,
Yes.
Fernando is faster than you. Do
and
you
Malaysia
understand?
a couple of years ago with Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber.
Multi-21 set.
Multi-21.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we don't see that again. And we've got one more piece of news. A little bit more sort of out there bit of news with Lewis Hamilton, and this is the celebration from his win in China.
Yeah, a campaign group who campaign against sexism said that Hamilton's grid celebrations, in which he sprayed a grid girl with champagne on his victory, they said that they were unacceptable, embarrassing, and disrespectful.
Nonsense.
Yes.
I tell you what's more disrespectful: having those girls up there in the first place,
Yes.
parading around as pieces of meat to adorn and decorate effectively the grid and the podium. What do they add? I mean, no offence to the women. They obviously want to be models, and that's fine. It's a respectable business if you want to be in it, and that's your career path. Brilliant. But, and I'm going to get on my high horse here now. There's what point is there of that? Why not? And again, this is another. I have my best ideas while driving,
Yeah.
but why not offer the grid slot, girls slots, or the where they're standing on the side of the stairs applauding uninterestedly? Why not offer that to charity, to like make a wish foundations or things like that to kids who are huge fans and the future of Formula One? Give them that opportunity to go and stand on the grid in a Formula One environment, holding the signs, clapping the drivers, meeting their heroes, rather than a bunch of girls dolled up, looking ridiculous. Again, my fiance, who when she watches the race, this is the part where she thinks it's that's sexism, having them up there just to decorate and adorn the drivers as they come up the stairs. It's a ridiculous thing. And Hamilton, yes, he sprayed the girls, and imagine if it was a bloke stood up there, he'd spray them. He sprays the cameraman. He sprays everybody when he's up there with the champagne. You get caught up in the moment you're celebrating, and I think it's an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. And if you want to talk about sexism, then let's get rid of grid girls altogether. End of rant.
And scene. I completely agree with you. Our mum is the same. she's always, when she sees them, she's like, oh, what's the point in them? What are they for? And I think she's right. I mean, I've got nothing, I'm not sexist in any way, but they don't provide anything to the sport. No one pays attention to them. As you said, they provide no purpose whatsoever. But I don't know what you had for breakfast this morning, Daniel, but you've come up with two really good points so far with Ricardo and now the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah, I know, right?
You're on a roll. You might want to stop.
I am on a roll today.
I think that's a really good idea. I think it's brilliant. That is.
Oh, thank you very much. Maybe I'll write to Bernie Ecclestone and see what he says. But those are the sort of people who you would be interested in seeing on there. And it would turn more people to the sport.
It would become more relevant.
Exactly, and the whole thing of, all right, it's just because it's girls, women get jealous. If it was a bunch of blokes up there with their tops off or anything like that, you'd never see that. But two, again, they would add nothing to the sport. It's just window dressing. It's garnish on top of the dish. There's no point to them being there whatsoever. It doesn't add glamour at all. All it adds is just the fact that there's some girls walking around, with big sticks with numbers on the top. Give it to someone who actually would relish the opportunity and make it an actual relevant thing to do, and let young people meet their heroes, and that's the way to do it. Not having just some random girls on there who've got no interest necessarily. I mean, some of them might do. I mean, I'm speaking out of turn there, but let's make them relevant and let's stop this whole nonsense about this Hamilton celebration. In my opinion, anyway.
I think you've covered it all there, Dan, yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you speak in the next one. The next piece of news then, Ben, let me look down my list. Yes, a piece of news about Jules Bianchi. Viva Jules.
Yeah, a bit of sad news. Obviously, Jules Bianchi, who was driving for Marussia last season, had a terrible accident in Suzuka during the race in which he collided with a tractor at high speed. I believe he hit his head on the rear part of the tractor, which acts as the counterweight, which is just pure steel. He has resulted in being in a coma, which he's been in for 6 months now, and unfortunately he's showing little sign of improvement.
Very sad news. Very, very sad indeed. I mean, we want him to keep fighting. Forza Jules, and hopefully he comes out of it. It's a horrible thing to see. He was such a young prospect in Formula One, and to have him end his career so soon, when he showed such signs of being a future star like Max Verstappen, and when we saw Robert Kubica and people like that, he was very reminiscent of that. So I mean, we hope and pray that he does get better, because we want to see him back in the sport. But if it's not looking good, then obviously there comes a point when you have to make a decision for what's good for him as a human being, and not as a sports star and a Formula One driver. Yeah,
F1 has increased significantly since Senna's death in terms of safety. But no matter how much is done to improve safety in Formula One, there will still be these types of incidents, unfortunately, because it is just the nature of the sport. You can't make it foolproof. There are cars going at 200 miles per hour, wheel to wheel. It can't be foolproof. It can't be 100% safe. It just can't. It's very sad to see, but drivers, they do know that risk when they're going into it. And if you purchase a ticket, for example, for a Formula One event, it does say on the ticket that this is a very dangerous sport. It should not be taken lightly. But it's rare to see nowadays, and it's extremely sad and unfortunate that it happened to Jules Bianchi. But it is very good to see that the FIA and Formula One as a whole have found ways to improve based off this, because every time you can do a little bit to improve, but I don't think you can eliminate the risk completely.
No, I mean, and we saw that huge accident in an endurance race in the Nürburgring recently, where unfortunately a spectator was killed as a car launched itself into the crowd. You can't account for these things. You can't make motorsport 100% safe. It's just not possible. Even if you're travelling at 30 mile an hour, a motor vehicle is dangerous. So really, I want to thank Jules Bianchi for the racing he did give us and the entertainment he gave us when he was a Formula One driver. But my thoughts and prayers are with his family now, and I can't imagine really what they're going through. So, thank you very much, Jules Bianchi. Forza Jules, and let's hope and pray that he keeps fighting and does get better. I don't want to make light of this piece of news at all, but there is another piece of news that is linked to this, and that is it's come out. I was reading on GP Hub on Twitter this week that even Jules Bianchi was signed to Sauber as well. Apparently they had 6 drivers signed at one point, and just before the Japanese Grand Prix weekend began, Jules Bianchi had signed with Sauber, apparently, according to this news article. So at one point Sauber had 6 drivers, including Jules Bianchi. Any thoughts on that, Ben, just quickly?
I'm not sure what effect that would have had on, say, what happened in Australia, because obviously you said there were 6 drivers signed, but I'm not sure if because Bianchi signed that meant other drivers would not have been signed. I'm not entirely sure, but that's no really further comment on that.
No, well, our thoughts are with your family, Jules, Forza Jules, and we just hope that you keep fighting it and get better. But
absolutely.
We move on now to happier news. Kimi Raikkonen and Ferrari now. He's got some positive things to say, Kimi.
Yeah, it makes a change, really. He seems quite happy, which we're not used to seeing with Kimi Raikkonen. And he's pretty much come out and said after China that there's no reason why Ferrari can't consistently beat Mercedes this year and therefore win the title. And whether that's constructors, drivers, or both. Both Kimi and Vettel are feeling quite confident that they can challenge Mercedes regularly and actually beat them overall.
That's good. That's what we want to see. That's fantastic news. And hopefully, Kimi can get in on the action a little bit, because he had a bit of bad luck in the first 2 races. He finished 4th, obviously, in Shanghai. But I really want to see him get in there a little bit more and get amongst the front 2, really, and get amongst it with Vettel as well. We've not seen them fight yet.
No, qualifying is really letting him down at the moment. He's had 3 poor qualifying sessions, but he was extremely quick in the second half of the race in China. And just hopefully bit by bit he can get through and actually, as you say, challenge Vettel, challenge and the Mercedes drivers as well. And I want to see the Kimi of old.
And we want to see the prancing horse back. I mean, there were times when Schumacher was winning every race, and I'll hold my hands up and admit it. I think every F1 fan goes through this stage. You end up hating the team that's dominating the sport. But there was a time where, Ferrari, and I don't think John Todd was my favourite guy either. I just didn't like the way he did business. He seemed a little bit sort of schemy and a little bit sly-handed. But it's good to see Ferrari back, because I do actually like Ferrari, and I think because they are one of the mainstays of the sport, one of the main teams there, we want to see them do well.
Yes, definitely. I mean, people, I know a lot of people I speak to say, they hate Ferrari, and that's because of the Schumacher era, the 5 years straight, and as you say, like the way they did business with under Jean Todt, but to be honest, any car up there, as long as they're competing for the victory, I'm absolutely all for it. Even if Red Bull were to come back, you don't want to see the domination like we had with Red Bull and like we might see with Mercedes, although it is Lewis Hamilton. We want to see
bias.
We want to see as many cars fighting for the number 1 position as possible, and we don't.
That's right.
We don't want a 2-horse race. Especially as one is one-sided that we had second half of last year, and we're having so far this year. We want to have the best drivers in Formula 1 all fighting, not just a few.
I like your pun there, 2-horse race, getting the prancing horse.
Yes. Pun intended, of course.
Well, moving on from that one, and possibly the second best team in the sport, Roman Grosjean's come out and said that Lotus are the 4th best team in the sport. Not the greatest claim and bragging rights, but Lotus, they've got a solid case. Do you think?
Well, they had bad luck. Well, I'm not going to say they had bad luck. They didn't do very well in the first 2 races through reliability, which isn't really bad luck. It's kind of their own fault. It's the way they've integrated the engine with the chassis. Doesn't come through from just chance. It happens because of a reason. But they've had a car in Q3 every time, at least one car in Q3 every time, which is very positive and very good. And I think they are arguably one of the fastest cars in Formula One at the moment in the straight line. If you looked at all the speed traps from races, the Lotus car is up there. And although it could be quite an anomaly because Maldonado seems to be the fastest, but I don't know if it's because he's forgot to brake and has gone off somewhere else. So take from that what you will. But as you say, they're looking to keep on pushing, and they're bringing big updates for Catalonia, which everyone is, and they just need to keep pushing. And I think they're even thinking of trying to target Williams and overhaul them. But we'll see more on that. Hopefully they can, because again, there's more cars fighting together, and as we've seen and mentioned a lot on our podcast with Williams, is they're very boring, and we've barely seen them in the races. So if we get Lotus challenging them, or Williams challenging Ferrari, we're going to see them more. We're going to see more cars fighting and racing together.
Well, we could end up with 2 miniature races going, or 3 races going on. You could have the Ferrari-Mercedes battle at the front, and then the Williams-Lotus battle just in behind them, and then the best of the rest. So it's only going to be a positive thing if they do start to catch Williams. But who knows? We'll wait till we get to Europe to see if Williams can even haul in the Ferraris. We don't know what they've got coming up or around the corner. And speaking of Williams, they've had a little bit of an issue going into Bahrain where they've had to cover up one of their sponsors. So when we came into the race review last time, we were saying that Martini might be a little bit upset because they didn't get much TV time. Well, they're not going to get any TV time this time round. No,
obviously their main sponsor, Martini, has to be covered up because of the rules and regulations and laws in Bahrain. I think they have to do it last year. I'm not sure if they have to do it anywhere else in the year.
But it's ridiculous though, because you can buy a martini in a bar in Bahrain. I think it's just the public perception is that we don't drink and all this sort of thing, which is fine, and that's a cultural thing that they do, and I understand that. And we had the same with, I don't know whether you remember the cigarette advertising where you had Benson and Hedges was on the back of the Jordan car, but then in some races it was turned into Be on Edge because some countries didn't allow smoking advertising, and I see the point, but it's got to be a little bit annoying for Martini. As I say, they didn't get any TV coverage last time, and now they're not going to get anything at all.
No, not really something that I lose a lot of sleep over. I mean, people are going to remember that it's still Martini, and they are Martini Williams Racing. It's just one race, and I suppose Martini as a company will be very annoyed and frustrated by it, but I don't think many fans will care. They still know it's Williams Martini, and I don't think many people really pay much attention to sponsors anyway, really.
No.
To be fair.
That's true. How's your singing voice, Ben?
Not the best. Better than most people on probably like these reality shows like X Factor and things like that, but...
Are you ready to sing Happy Birthday to Frank Williams?
Let's go for it.
Happy birthday to you. We're all out of sync.
Wow. Maybe we won't be invited to Grove anytime soon, will we? Not like that.
Well, it's his birthday anyway, so happy birthday, Sir Frank. How old is Sir Frank? I didn't actually check how old he is today. I should probably check that. I'm just going to check that now. Ben, have you you've slagged Williams off a little bit, calling them boring. Give us some positive things about Williams. What are your positive views of Williams?
Well, they're a true British team of Formula One. They've had their periods of domination in Formula One as well, like Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes, and with like Mansell and Prost and Nelson Piquet, and Patrick Head as well, who co-founded Williams. They were unstoppable for some point, and they're the team in Formula One that everybody loves, no matter if their main team is Ferrari or Mercedes or Red Bull. Everybody has some kind of affection towards Williams and the car and the team. I think that is because of Frank Williams, and it's his team, and he's there, he's hands-on, and he's just a very nice man. Unfortunately, he had his car incident. I can't even remember, was it the 70s or 80s he had the incident?
It was in the 80s, yeah.
In the 80s. So unfortunately, he has to battle through that. But he's still fighting fit, and he was at most races until recently as well. I think he's in Bahrain this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a piece for the website, fivelightspodcast.com. The best team in Formula One is, and I had to say it was Williams at the time, not because of anything specifically that they're doing in the season at the minute, like winning races or anything like that, but because of who they are and how they do business. Williams' team has been in Formula One since 1977. They won their first title in 79. They haven't won a title, drivers or constructors of any kind, since 1997 when Jacques Villeneuve won. But they're still here, and they're still fighting, and they're still going about their business. And a few years ago, they've been through a few years of being completely insignificant, sometimes failing to qualify out of Q3, for example, reliability issues, not winning races for years. I mean, Maldonado won their first race in God knows how long, a few years back, with that surprise victory. So it's good to see them back at the front of the grid because, as you said, everyone's got a soft spot for Williams. But whenever they've been struggling, they've never once threatened to pull out of the sport. They've not got a big manufacturer behind them. They don't produce a road car. They are just the Williams F1 team. This is all they do. They don't build anything else. This is it. So they've had to survive on Sir Frank Williams' fight, and you can see he is the human epitome of what it is to be a fighter. He had his accident, he's in a wheelchair, he's wheelchair bound, he's paralysed, but he's still there at most F1 races at the age of 72. Happy 72nd birthday, Frank. And it looks like his daughter Claire is going to have the same grit and determination. And that's great to see, because we want to see Williams in the future. We want to see teams like that, the old-fashioned Formula One teams, fighting it out at the front of the grid. And hopefully they can get some better pieces and get back to winning ways and win another World Championship. So my favourite team in Formula One is Williams. It will always be Williams, because of Nigel Mansell as well back in 1992 when he won his World Championship. I always remember watching that on video very, very fondly, and that's really my first memories of Formula One. So Frank, thank you very much. Happy birthday, and have one on me, mate.
Happy birthday, Frank.
Happy birthday indeed. Right, so that's all the news wrapped up, Benj. Let's get into Bahrain, shall we? Looking forward to this one?
Very. It's probably one of my most favourite circuits on the calendar. I just really like the layout. It's long, straight, slow corners, medium corners, fast corners, and it provides a lot of good races, as we saw last year, which is probably one of the best races I've ever seen in my history of Formula One.
Indeed, it was one of the best races I've ever seen, and because it's now at night and the cars are lower to the ground, it's going to be an awesome spectacle as well. We're seeing loads more sparks this year.
Yeah, there'll be like a little firework display halfway through the race.
It will be.
And it's just, on the Formula One game, this is probably my favourite track to drive. I just don't know why. It's just, it's everything about it.
Your face!
Everything. Go on.
Go on. No, you go, and then I'll tell. Go on.
Everything about it just says it shouldn't be a really good race, but it proves everyone wrong every year. Because
I say, we've done this before. I speak to Ben over Skype when we do these, and we have video on so we can see each other. Ben's face, he's so happy to be in Bahrain. He's fantastic. Bahrain.
They did alter the track. I can't remember the years. Was it 2012 to 2013 or 2011, 2012, where they added that extra bit? That wasn't very good.
No,
that was awful. And they, saw sense and reverted it back to the original layout.
Right, so I'll go through the stats that Benjamin has provided me once more. Remember, half of these are actual factual stats, and then Benjamin gets into his F1 wannabe engineer bit. So the Bahrain Grand Prix will begin tomorrow, Friday the 17th of April, and run till Sunday the 19th of April. It's at the Bahrain Sakhir International Circuit. The length is 5.412 kilometres, or 3.362 miles, and it is a clockwise circuit.
Not going to query that this time, are you?
No, definitely
Believe
not. Me. 57 laps, which accounts to about 308.238 kilometres, or 191.529 miles. The tyre compounds are the medium, which is the white ring tyre, and the soft, which is the yellow ringed tyre. Tyres are going to be very important this weekend. 15 turns, two DRS zones at the pit straight and between turns 10 and 11. TV times for you. Is this one on Sky and BBC, or is it just Sky Sports? We'll check that in a minute, I think. Qualifying is at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and the race is also at 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So no early mornings, Ben. Yay!
Finally, we can have a long lion.
Bit of a lion. That's great. The weather, desert weather, hot. Hot. Capital letters, hot. Hot.
Although at night it will still be hot.
It's going to be redders, as we say. The driver steward is Mika Salo, a Finn, so he's going to be sweating. It's a twilight/night race. The likelihood of a safety car is 10%. Yeah, we don't see many safety cars here, although we did see one last year, which brought out an extra piece of drama and brought the cars together at the end there for another bout between Hamilton and Rosberg, which is awesome.
I wonder who caused that safety car.
Yeah. 4 out of the 10 races have been won from pole, so qualifying is important, but not as important as some other races and other circuits around the year. Low temperatures because of taking place at night. Is that? Do you mean low track temperatures?
Low track temperatures, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the air temperatures horrific.
Yeah.
Higher than average brake wear due to a mix of long straights and tight corners. Desert sand means a dirty track and therefore lack of grip. Sand also affects mechanical components. A granite circuit, which is very abrasive. Track on tyres, 2-3 stop strategy. I think we mentioned tyres, about 5 of those points there. Tyres, Benj, this weekend are going to be really, really important. Just a little note before you get into that. Jolyon Palmer will once again drive in FP1. But yeah, tyres, Benj. Really, really important this weekend.
Yeah, we obviously saw in Malaysia that Ferrari made good use of their tyres, especially in hot conditions. So the track temperatures aren't going to be, probably not even as hot as what they were on race day in Shanghai, China. But because it's such an abrasive circuit and there's a lot of tight corners and high braking going from long straight into a very tight corner, it significantly wears the tyres and therefore they degrade much quicker as well. So it's going to be a case of who can handle their tyres the best. And what doesn't help is FP1, FP3 FP1 and FP3 are during the daytime, so in really hot conditions, whereas FP2 and qualifying in the race, they're all going to be during the night, and so they're going to be completely different conditions. So they only get really one practice session to actually practice for qualifying and race. So that's going to compromise a few people. But I think Ferrari will be a lot closer this weekend, purely on just because of the tyres.
It doesn't give really a fair representation, does it, the free practices, because they're in completely different conditions. I mean, obviously you would have that if it was raining over a weekend, but the temperature of the circuit from a day to a night time is very different. I mean, I've got the TV times here now, which will give you the times for all the practices. It's on BBC and Sky this weekend, so if you haven't got Sky Sports F1, you can watch it live on BBC One in the UK. As we said, the race is at 1 o'clock, and the quali is at 12, it says here. That can't be right.
12?
It says on here the race is at 1 o'clock, and then the qualifying is at 12 o'clock.
You sure you're reading Bahrain?
I'm positive I'm reading Bahrain.
You sure it's 2015?
I'm on the Badger GP app. We're doing this is live breakdown of notes here. So Ben, do you want to double check that? Those TV times? Yeah,
because we're 2 hours, at the minute we're 2 hours behind Bahrain, and it starts at 6 o'clock in the evening, so...
Yeah, so that's going off the Badger GP app. I'll just double check that on here while I talk about tyres and heat. I say we've seen how the Mercedes can sometimes struggle with tyres. We saw it in the last race where they were having to preserve them. The Ferrari seems to be pretty good on its tyres and looked very good in Malaysia when the track got hot. So are we expecting to see the gap close between those two teams this weekend?
I would say so, yeah. I would expect that to happen, and I've reflected that in my predictions. But I think Mercedes have managed to get a grip on their grip on their tyres from not intended from China, and I think they can handle it a lot better, and they've learned from their mistakes. But whether how they've managed it is enough to challenge or stay ahead of Ferrari. Well, again, we'll have to see. But I don't expect it to be too much of a problem. It might be a problem for Rosberg if he gets slowed down by Hamilton. He might have problems, but he may have to look after his tyres a bit more and try and overtake him if that happens again.
He will indeed. Ben, you're right. We'll have to let the Badger GP guys know that their TV times are wrong, because I'm looking at the BBC website now, and the Bahrain Grand Prix qualifying show on BBC One starts at 3:30, ending at 5:05, and on Sunday the Bahrain Grand Prix is at 3 o'clock, ending at 5 minutes past 6. So yeah, it can't even be the local time, so I don't know where they got their times from. So yeah, 4 p.m. is when you're likely to see both. Well, you're not likely to see. You are you are going to see.
Depends if you record it or not.
Well, yeah. So 4 p.m. are the qualifying and race times for this weekend. So we've talked a little bit about Mercedes and Ferrari. Who do you think is going to qualify first then, Ben? So let's go through the Badger GP app and go through their fantasy thing, which we hope is correct, and pick our predictions first. Because, as we said in the notes leading up to it, qualifying isn't essential here, 4 out of the 10 races being won from pole. Do you think Rosberg is going to come back this weekend, or do you think his mind is still beaten by Hamilton and Hamilton will topple him? Or do you think someone else will potentially nip in there?
Well, Hamilton has never qualified on pole in Bahrain, but I'm not one for stats like that. I think they're rubbish. But, I think Hamilton will get pole. The only way for me that Rosberg is going to beat Hamilton is if he has a bad day. That's the only way I can see Rosberg beating Hamilton at all this year, is if Hamilton is having a bad day. And at the minute Hamilton is on form, he knows he's got Rosberg in the bag, on track and mentally. So yeah, Rosberg's always going to be behind Hamilton for me at the moment, until we see otherwise, where Hamilton makes a mistake or is having a bad weekend because of maybe reliability or something.
Yeah, well, I've picked Hamilton as well to take pole. I think I have to agree with you, and I think that Lewis is in supreme form at the minute. He's looking supremely confident, and unless something goes wrong, I can't see Rosberg toppling him. I don't think Rosberg has got it in the bag at the minute to do that, and I think he's mentally beaten by Hamilton. He needs something to go right for him to take that, and potentially he could qualify third if the Ferraris are managing to do better with their tyres in the heat. So you could potentially see Rosberg drop back even further. And Vettel again on form, and Raikkonen peaking in now on form as well. So I'll take Hamilton on pole. So let's transfer that then across to Sunday then, Ben. Do you see that pole transferring into a race win for Hamilton? And then who have you got second and third? Give us your top three.
Well, subject to change, my predictions.
Yeah, hypocrite.
I was and ahhing all evening before we went live on the podcast as who was going to be my top three, or second and third really. I think Hamilton's going to convert the pole to win again. I think he'll have no problems in doing that. I've got. I'm just going to double check because I think I forgot, but I think I've got Rosberg second and Vettel third. Yeah, Rosberg second, Vettel third.
Okay.
So Hamilton, Rosberg, Vettel.
Well, I've got Hamilton to win, Vettel second, and Rosberg third. But I wouldn't be surprised if Raikkonen comes in and takes a place as well. As I say, I'd be interested to see what happens come Saturday in the qualifying. Obviously, these are locked off on Saturday, so you can't change them after the qualifying. But yeah, Hamilton for me will win it from the front. And then it's going to be an interesting fight for those next three places, really, between Vettel, Rosberg and Raikkonen. We can see them doing some good racing there. And this is a track that can produce some accidents. And also, as you said, this whole reliability issue with the tyres coming under a lot of stress here, and also the sand and the grit in the air can cause mechanical issues. So we could see a right mixed up grid.
We could do, yeah. I mean, we saw last year that Perez in the Force India came third.
Yeah.
So, and we saw a lot of racing throughout the field. So, very interesting circuit. It produces a lot of good racing. And it's going to be, night time as well. So, because of the lack of practice in actual race in qualifying conditions, and a lot of people could probably get it wrong or not as good as others, and therefore it's going to compromise them in the race. And I think that's going to bring everyone together a lot more, and we could see some hopefully as good a race as we did last year.
Indeed. Safety cars, Ben. We've had a safety car in every race so far this year.
We have.
Do you think that's going to continue in Bahrain, considering there's a 10% chance of seeing one here?
I think there will be, and that's going to link to my bold predictions as well. So I think there's going to be one safety car.
Okay, I've said one as well. I'm interested to hear your bold prediction now. I'm very interested to hear that. And who have you got picked for fastest lap? I've got Lewis Hamilton again.
I have also got Lewis Hamilton.
Well, there we go. Past the Maldonado watch, going with your other prediction. Last year, obviously, he sent Gutierrez spinning right round, baby right round, and upside down in a bizarre accident as he came out the pits. He just thought he would. He was almost in an episode of Robot Wars, and flipped him over full 360. Do we see him doing well this race? I mean, Grosjean said that Lotus are potentially the fourth fastest car. If he can keep it in between the white lines, do we think they can have a strong finish this race? Grosjean, or do you think he can keep it in between the white lines?
Grosjean, yeah. Maldonado, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much of this has gone to his head, and he's going to be aware of that during the race, that he's going to either make a mistake because of he'll be drifting again, or he'll crash, or whatever. I'm not sure. For his sake, I'd like to say that he has a clean race and brings the car home, but I really don't know, actually, to be honest. I don't know if he'll bring it home or not. Stumped him.
Yeah. I think it depends where he qualifies, and how much scrapping he has to do.
Who's in front of him?
Yeah, and which Maldonado turns up. Is it going to be the Maldonado that turned up at the first half of Shanghai, or is it going to be the second half that shows up again with the wacky racist style of driving? So your bold predictions, Ben. I'm intrigued to. Have you just got one again this week?
I've just got one this week. I've come prepared this week.
Okay, hit me with it. Hit me with your bold prediction then.
Well, I'm just going to find it just to make sure that I'm reading it correct. I did actually, speaking of bold predictions, I did actually get one right last week. I had the Ferrari spat, which is obviously wrong, but my other one was both Marussias would qualify within 107%, which they did, and both finished the race, which they did.
You did, yeah, very good.
But for this week, we've had the Hamilton versus Rosberg debacle going on, and people are saying, Rosberg needs to, man up a bit and actually become a racing driver and try something different and try and overtake Hamilton. I think he's going to try and do that. I think he's going to try something new. I think he's going to be a bit desperate, and at some stage, maybe the first corner, he's going to try a desperate move to overtake Hamilton, and it's going to go wrong.
So
and there's going to be contact, but I don't know. It's going to affect one of the Mercedes cars, but I don't know which one.
Oh, so you're potentially saying we could see a repeat of what happened at Spa?
At Spa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's hence the safety car.
Because there's a lot of runoff areas in Bahrain as well, isn't there? There's quite a wide area. It's very difficult to go off completely at Bahrain. You've got a lot of give there. But you still see quite a bit of contact because it's such low light, and the visibility out of these cars is pretty poor anyway. So I think it could be a good shout. I mean, I said it would happen in the last race. I said that Rosberg would potentially qualify badly and get a bit desperate and have an accident. He didn't do that, but as the weeks go on, it's looking more and more likely that this could happen, especially with the tyre problems that Mercedes have been having. So yeah, we'll mark that one down, Ben, and we'll see what you got. You feeling pretty confident about that one, or?
Not really.
Well, I've got one as well.
Yeah.
And I know I said that they wouldn't score any points potentially until Europe.
Oh.
However, I think that one of the McLarens will sneak in the top 10 this week and score the first points of the season for McLaren. Because of the potential reliability issues here anyway, and the potential for accidents, I think if Alonso and Button can keep it on the island and get it round the track, I think they could sneak in and get some points because they're driving consistently, they're driving well, they've got a little bit of juice to turn up on that McLaren. If they can keep it going, then I think they could very well sneak in and get some points, and hopefully they do, because I really want to see McLaren do well. So yes, I think McLaren will score their first points of the season this weekend. There you go, Benj. Yeah. I know I said it was going to happen in Europe and in Spain, but I've moved it forward or a race anyway, and said that they will score their first points this weekend with a sneaky, maybe just the 1 point. I'm not going to go crazy and say they're going to finish in the top 5 or something like that, but just one of them will manage to finish in 10th place and get a good point for McLaren, which will be great to see.
Yeah, I think McLaren are going to struggle, and they've said that they're going to probably struggle this weekend. But yeah, why not? Alonso also said that it won't be long before they stop being lapped as well. So I don't think it's too far away that there'll be 11th, 12th pace knocking on the door of some points as a helicopter goes over my house.
They're coming to get you, Ben.
They're coming to get me. It's Maldonado's people. They're coming for me. / Williams.
So we'll keep an eye out for that. If you want to join our Badger GP League, you still can, and there's still time to take up Fantasy F1. It's not too late. I'll give you an example. In our league, the 5 Lights League, which the passcode is 459062, which can also be found on our website, 5lightspodcast.com. I'm currently in 3rd place, FOF Dan F1, who is from the Flat Out Fever podcast, currently at the top, which Benjamin is closest to him at the minute in 2nd place. But Jenny started a week out. Jenny didn't do the first week, did she?
She didn't, no.
No, she's. I'm on 396 points and she's on 352 already. So she's only 44 points behind me already, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Dan from the Flat Out Fever podcast, he's on 460. Benjamin is on 439. So you're what? 21 points behind him.
I think I've closed the gap on him.
You have, yeah. I was a little bit disappointed last week because I was expecting to get some really good points and make some headway on you. So you've got 439, I've got 396. I scored 160 points last week, which is my highest points haul so far. But I feel like I've lost a step on you both at the top there.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've stepped away.
I did better than I thought I would as well, somehow. So I'm not complaining.
No, well, in the Flat Out Fever podcast, which is the passcode is 681942. Again, FOS Dan is at the top of that one with Benjamin in 2nd. I'm tying 4th now, or 3rd, with the Praetorian GP, so I'm not even in 3rd anymore. We've both got 396 points, so I'm falling away a little bit.
Step it
so
up,
hopefully,
Matt Rosberg, step it up.
Step it up, man. I'm a little bit disappointed. We're now in a part of the season where you can no longer make unlimited changes to your team. So when your Badger GP team, you have 75 million fictional pounds to spend. You have to pick. Whoa, what's gone up from my head? Let me have a look at my team here. You have to pick 3 drivers and 3 cars. That's right. So you have 75 million pounds to spend. 3 drivers, 3 cars. You used to have unlimited changes, but now you only have 8 changes for the entire season until you have to. It says 3 changes left, so whether you have to start paying after the 8 changes, I don't know. But yeah, so you've got 8 changes to make for the rest of the season. My drivers are Felipe Massa, Max Verstappen, and Felipe Nasser, and my cars are Mercedes, Ferrari, and Williams. Ben, have you made any changes this week? Have you eaten into your engine limit of 8 here?
I haven't. No. Did you say you've made changes to yours?
No, I've not made any changes.
You've not made any changes.
I'm going to keep it for a couple of races, see how we get on with this. Obviously, Max Verstappen didn't finish in the last race, but everybody else finished in the points, which was great. But we'll see how I keep going with these ones, and then if I need to make changes to bridge the gap, then I will do. But nothing as of yet. So who have you got in yours then, Benj?
I've got Mercedes, Ferrari, and Toro Rosso as my cars, and my drivers are Hamilton, Nasir, and Verstappen. I'm probably will have to change Toro Rosso at some point because Verstappen and Nasir are really good drivers, they're really quick as we saw in China, but reliability is letting them down with that Renault engine. So it might be that I have to swap in the Lotus car if they start to perform well or
Yeah.
maybe even the Saubers, because they're consistently finishing in the points as well. So I'll keep an eye on that one, and like yourself, and give it a couple of weeks and see how things pan out. Especially after Catalonia and the start of the European season.
Yeah, things tend to start changing when we get to Europe, don't we? So other teams may be bringing other production parts through and development parts, and we tend to see some other cars and drivers coming to the fore. But we're also in the Ultimate Dream Teams League, which is UDT. We have two cars there and 6 drivers and a team captain. Our cars are the Mercedes and the Ferrari. And we have Carlos Sainz Jr., Lewis Hamilton, who was our team captain, which means if he scores points, he scores double points. Felipe Nasser, Sebastian Vettel, Nico Hulkenberg, and Max Verstappen, which I believe, again, is a very strong team. So hopefully we can cruise in and break the flat-out fever grip on all 3 leagues at the minute, because we want to be the best podcast, right?
Definitely. Well, we are. But
we are. Yes.
Yeah, we need to prove it. We can't. Talk the talk and not walk the walk. We've got to do both. So
this is right. We can't do this. So hopefully this weekend we'll score more points, and I'll score a few more points and close that gap. So I was a little bit disappointed last week because I thought I did really well, but obviously not the case. Anyway, Benj, anything else to sum up for Bahrain? Anything else you wanna mention before we wrap up this baby of a podcast?
Just enjoy it. We get a lie-in, as we've said. And there's also the GP2 to watch out for. So if you've got more spare time, then you can watch the qualifying sessions and the feature races as well. And they're normally pretty good. So yeah, look out for them. And yeah, enjoy it.
Yeah, you tend to see a lot of good racing in the GP2, and it's a good place to watch out for future F1 drivers as well, isn't it? And there's a few test drivers who are doing both test driving and GP2. So if you have got Sky Sports F1, they tend to show it on there. And it is very entertaining to watch. The cars are all similarly matched, and you get to see some really good driving skills. And you tend to see, as you said, Benjamin, we're seeing that with Nasser and Sainz as well, aren't we?
Yes, it's very much like go-kart racing. It's racing. The cars are very similar to one another. There's no huge differences like you would get between a Mercedes and a Marussia, which is good. And I can't remember how many cars there are, but there are a lot more cars in GP2 and in the 20s, like 24, 26, something like that.
Yeah.
And we have Jolyon Palmer, who was a former champion. Unfortunately, he's not racing in Formula One. He's the reserve driver for Lotus, but. Yeah, as you said, it's good to spy on the future talent of Formula One.
Yeah, they do all sorts. If you haven't seen GP2, I'm sure some of you have who are listening. They tend to mix up the grids as well on some of their different races. They have a sprint race and other races. It's a good watch. So if you've got some spare time, dig into that. So our next episode 10, Benj.
Yeah,
double digits. 10. Number 10, episode 10 will be after the race on Sunday, potentially. Me and Ben will have a talk. But it will either be Sunday or Monday anyway. Probably more likely to be Sunday. Would you say, Ben?
Yeah, well, if you say we'll have the race and it'll be finishing around 8-ish. So, why not?
Yeah, why not? Plenty of time. So, yeah, we'll do a podcast after the race on Sunday. In the meantime, if you've listened to this and you still want some more Formula One, head over to our website, 5lightspodcast.com. You can read more of our articles on there. So Ben's doing some more articles this week. I haven't had a chance to write anything this week because unfortunately I've been ill. I've been poorly. So I've not had a chance to write anything this week, but I will be writing something to go up. I'll be writing another Dan's Takeaways as well for this weekend. And also on there you can find links to the On The Limit podcast, which you can follow on Twitter at OnTheLimit77, and the Flat Out Fever podcast, and we're still trying to thrash out some details to be guests on their podcast and have them on ours. And you can follow them on Twitter too, at Flat Out Fever. We're still looking for sponsorships, and I'm looking into some affiliate things as well to put on our website, so stay tuned for that. So if you're a budding F1 writer, or you've got an interest in F1, or you just love F1 and you want to be mentioned on the podcast, send us an email at 5lightspodcast.com, and that's the number 5, not how you spell it, so that's the actual numerical 5. Is that the right word? Yeah, numerical 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I thought. You can follow us on social media. All the links are on our website. But if you can't bother to go over there because you're plain lazy, then it's at 5lightspod for Twitter, and the same for our Instagram account. Ben, are you going to put any more pictures up this weekend?
I hope to. Yeah, there won't be any early morning selfies this time, so I'll look more representable and smart. Hopefully, anyway. Or at least a tiny bit better than when I've just woken up.
Nice.
And I'll have our eldest brother will be with us as well, hopefully, for the race. And hopefully I might be able to get to some film or a photo of our little nephew who goes crazy for Formula One. So I'll try and get that if I can.
Yes, please do. Please do that. She doesn't know this yet, but I'd quite like to get Jenny on the podcast as well at some point because she is doing so well in Fantasy F1 to get the old female perspective on Formula 1 and on this whole Grid Girls talk, because obviously we're two blokes talking about it, so it'd be good to get a female perspective and then we can shoot it down about how well she's doing on Fantasy.
Yes, pick her brain.
But we shall see if she'd like to come on at some point. Maybe not on Sunday, but in a future podcast. So, anything else to add, Benj, before we go?
I think we've covered it all.
Brilliant. Okay, so happy birthday, Frank Williams.
Yep.
Good luck for this weekend, and we hope you enjoy the race. Remember, it's 4 p.m, not 1 o'clock. It is 4 p.m. Have a lie-in, enjoy the race, enjoy the qualifying, and we shall see you again on Sunday. For now, the 5 lights have gone out.
Bye, guys.